Welcome to the Political Power Hour with your host, former congressional candidate, retired federal agent, and three-time author, Michael Vilardi, highlighting today's political hot topics with the most interesting political candidates in the 2022 election. The most hard-hitting political commentary on the air today. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to another great show. I'm your host, Mike Vilardi, here at the Political Power Hour. We're going to be talking with Keith Feit. Keith, welcome back to the show. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks a lot, Mike. It's always a pleasure to be on and to discuss the state of politics today.
Yes. We are 1 week out from the election, 1 week out. And what we have to talk about tonight is who's showing up and who's not showing up. And Keith, you were just giving me some interesting statistics. And it seems like the last few elections, the Democrats always show up early, they mail in their ballots, and the Republicans wait for Election Day.
Absolutely. I mean, right now, when you look at the races that we have here in Palm Beach County, the Republicans are far behind in ballots cast because, of course, the Democrats heavy with the mail-in balloting, and then early voting. The Republicans, have cast more ballots. But there's a ton more mail-in ballots. So Republicans really need to get out to the polls. I don't want to wait until Election Day. I think a lot of things can happen. We want to make sure we get our votes in before then. So, if you're watching this and, you're a Republican, you care about what's going on out there, you got to get to the polls. There's 21 different early polling locations through Sunday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., a lot of places to go. There's not long lines. You can get in, make your vote count, and then get out. But we really need to make up a lot of votes in Palm Beach.
I've been talking about Operation Red Riding Hood, the Democratic strategy to register people as Republicans, and vote Democrat. And the problem is in a midterm election, people don't have the urgency to get out there and vote like they would in a presidential election.
Right.
The problem is we have a governor who, even though he's up by 11 points, a senator who's up by 9 points, if people don't vote, they could lose. And if we were to lose the Senate race here in Florida, the governorship in Florida, Florida would become New York Central. That would be a horror show.
Terrifying.
Horror show. If we don't change what's going on in Washington and win Congress by at least 40 seats. I mean, remember Barack Obama in 2010, after he was elected in 2008, they passed Obamacare.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He lost 63 congressional seats.
Yep.
63. Now, I want to remind you that during the presidential election of 2020, not one sitting Republican, lost their congressional seat. Not one. Not only did they not lose, but 14 seats were flipped from Democrat to Republican.
Right.
Now, which of course is at odds with the fact that Joe Biden got more votes than anybody else because we picked up 14 congressional seats, leaving us just 5 short of taking the House. Now, all we need to do is flip 3 seats and we got the House. That should not be a heavy lift.
Not at all.
In this environment. Mind you, something like over 30 Democratic congressmen retired.
Right.
Okay? Including Deutsch down here in South Florida. Mm-hmm. Okay? Ted Deutsch retired. So that becomes an open seat now. So we should be able to flip a few of those because they don't have the name recognition, they don't have the money, and with redistricting, it looks favorable that we should pick up 3 congressional seats here in Florida, which would be enough in and by itself to flip the House.
Right, absolutely.
But if Republicans don't get out and vote, if they do not show up, then we have no chance.
No, I mean, obviously, you got to get out, you got to make your voices heard and your votes count.
Exactly.
And if you don't, then we can sit here and complain for another 2 years or another 4 years, whatever it is. But, our responsibility in our constitutional republic is to express the people's power with the vote. Get into the
Absolutely.
ballot box and voting each and every election, whether it's a primary, a general, a special election, off year, presidential year, it doesn't matter. We all have civic responsibilities to get out and exercise that power of vote.
And the Democrats are bringing in the big guy. We all know who the big guy is. He's coming into Florida. He's here in Florida today to push for Val Demings and to push for Charlie Crist, because they're both down quite a bit. And of course, with his magnetism and ability to speak, it could make a big difference in the race here in Florida. So we really have to bring out the vote, because now they brought in the big guy. So they brought out the big guy. We got to bring out our big voters. We got to get as many people out there as possible to vote Republican and make sure that we keep Florida free.
Well, I don't think there's anything that could have happened that would motivate Florida voters more, Republican voters, NPA voters, even Democrat voters who are unhappy with this woke wave of nonsense
Right.
with
Right.
the new age Democratic Party. But nothing could be more motivational for voters to get out there than to see Joe Biden, to be reminded of the record inflation, the record crime, the
Right.
record illegal immigration, the record drug overdoses. I mean, I can't understand the strategy. I mean, Crist and Demings must be extremely desperate
Yeah.
in order to bring down Joe Biden, who's not popular and is just a reminder of everything wrong with our country today.
I can't wait to see the outtakes of his speech. That should be fun.
Well, usually the bloopers occur outside of it, but the bloopers are actually the
Right.
speech. Those are the bloopers
So,
when he speaks.
I mean, but this is a very critical election. We have a week left till Election Day. What are you doing?
Well, it's been nonstop. Obviously, we've been to the polls, we've been to early polling places, we've been sign waving, we've been greeting voters, we've still been canvassing, we've been going to walking communities, getting out there, talking to voters, distributing literature. We went to the Delray Garden Market the other day. Really got to talk to a lot of people, a lot of voters who are unhappy with the state of education, very worried about their children's futures. So we've been doing a little bit of everything. It's nonstop. Really at this point, for the whole month of October, it's been nonstop. But phone calls, texting. Emails. So we've been trying to reach as many voters as possible, and it's going to be the same, through Tuesday.
Well, I think that we got to have an early voting push. I think I voted early. I voted last Friday
As did I.
because I want to make sure that nothing can happen on Election Day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have to wait in line for 3 hours, or if it rains, or if something. Anything can happen.
Right.
So I just ask, if you are a conservative, if you are a Republican, if you want to keep Florida free, please get out and vote, and get out and vote early, because having your vote count. And I'm not a big believer in mail-in ballots. I'd rather go in person, make sure that my vote goes into the machine and my vote counts. And so I ask you to do the same. You go to the local libraries, they're all voting stations right now, and you could vote. And the lines aren't long, and get the job done, because if we don't keep Florida, and go through some of those statistics. What are the early statistics showing?
Well, the early statistics are showing that in Palm Beach County, the Democrats have cast about 43 or 44,000 more ballots than Republicans because of an overwhelming majority of the mail-in ballots, which I think are approaching 200,000 now. And even though Republicans have a small advantage in the early voting, it's still about 43,000. And when you look at the individual campaigns, obviously we have a lot of House districts, we have some Senate districts, and then Dan Franzese in the Congressional 22 race, Steve Byers in the Senate District 26 race, and Eric Ankner in 24. We're all in the same position where we're playing from behind because of the vote by mail. So, like you said, it's not a good situation to wait till Election Day, and I think we're still, we got to get those Republican voters out. But when you look at the races, and you look at who's running against who, and so we talk about the state Senate, and we got Lori Berman.
Right.
You know, that's a guaranteed vote against Ron DeSantis's agenda.
Right.
Whereas
Right.
Steve Byers is a constitutional conservative, something that we
Right.
need to get in there.
Absolutely.
And Eric Ankner as well, constitutional
Right.
conservative. And then you look at Daniel Zapata for House running against David Silvers. Again, another guaranteed woke vote. I'm running against Joe Casello, you know, no-show Joe.
Right, exactly.
Who, yeah, he might have been there, but really when people have needed him, when the kids have needed him, the parents have
Right.
needed him, you know, he's turned their back and he's voted against them. And you can go down the line with all the different races. It's basically you're going to vote for the Constitution or you're going to vote for a new woke world order here in Florida. And it's Constitution versus woke. It's liberty versus, you know, big government, and education versus indoctrination. There's never, in my opinion, been a clearer choice than what you have today with the candidates and what's going on in the country and the state.
But now you've been out talking to voters, right? Mm-hmm. And I know when I ran for Congress, there was they just hated Republicans. Mm-hmm. I mean, I introduced myself. I'm Mike Vilardi. I ran for Congress. Democrat or Republican? I'm a Republican. A Republican. Oh my God, we can't have a Republican.
We've seen some of that. We've seen some of that, but actually a lot more in the other way. Whereas Republican or Democrat, and well, I say Republican, well, that's good because if you were a Democrat, I'd be kicking you off my property.
Right,
now,
right,
you know? So,
right.
So we've seen a lot more of that than we have the other way around. Although there have been the rude, you know, the hateful. Because again, the woke left,
Yeah.
they're not just left.
Right.
You know, they are hateful, they're divisive, they're intolerant,
Yep.
and they're really, I don't know if they don't like their lives or
Probably
they don't like
not. I mean,
themselves,
right.
but they are just miserable people.
Right.
I was voting, I think it was 2 days ago, well, actually, Sunday. It was Sunday. So I was voting Sunday, and I'm standing there turning in my ballot, and with the machine, there's a spot up top that says insert card here,
Right.
and then underneath insert ballot here. Right. So I assumed I had a ballot, so I put it in the bottom, and the poll worker there was like, no. Oh, okay, it'll work anyway. And then the guy who she was helping started yelling at me. Wait your turn. She's helping me. I said, whoa, she's talking to me. I didn't say anything, right? I said, what's your problem? And then the lady's like, yeah, calming it down. There's no problem, whatever. And he walks by me on the way out, and he says, I'll take care of you, buddy, in the parking lot. And I said, well, that's mature. And then I walked out right behind him. He got in his car. Nothing happened. But that's what we're talking about these days. It's just angry people, you know, hate-filled people. I can't imagine being like that. And you know, we talk to Democrats. They kick you off their property. Have a nice day. You know,
I've had that
thanks for your
happen.
time. Have a wonderful day. You know, the hate and that's all. And you look at the left and you look at people like Rob Reiner. He tweets all the time.
Right.
And he's so anti-Republican. He makes up these stories how Republicans want to kill to keep power and this and that. He is the biggest
Meathead?
joke. He's beyond a meathead. That's too complimentary for him. Way too complimentary. He is a joke. He is promoting all the vile speech that he is supposedly condemning. Okay, he is a flat-out disgrace. Even more than Michael Moore, I think, and that's saying a lot.
Yeah, well, we see that a lot at the left. We really do. The world is falling. The world is falling. We couldn't have Trump again, right? Mm-hmm. So we went from 169 gasoline up to 5, and Biden gets out there the other day and says, "When I took office, gas was $5 a gallon. Now it's only $3.69." No, that wasn't the case at all. It was you made it $5 a gallon. Thank you very much. And you depleted our the entire fuel reserve of the nation just to get it back down to $3.69. But after Election Day, we could see that skyrocketing again.
Of course. And it's just like with the jobs. They say they created 10 million jobs.
Right.
But 9 million of them were coming back from pandemic lockdowns.
Right, of course.
So it's like you look at, you're an investor, you lose $9 million, and then you gain 10 million. You haven't gained 10 million profit. You profited 1 million.
Exactly right.
You know, but that's not how it works in woke world.
No, it's the spin. And I don't know if you saw the debate in New York with Lee Zeldin and Governor Kutchel there. And she's like, what crime? This is a GOP
Right.
This is the GOP tactic to make people think there's crime when there's really no crime here in New York. Meanwhile, people are being pushed into the subways,
Having their head
stabbed,
smashed in the middle of the street in broad
grab and
daylight.
rob. I mean, so what's happening in New York is some of the owners of some of the supermarkets, because they're not prosecuting people for going in and robbing food. You know, you can rob up to a certain amount. All got together and said, "We're Democrats. We're voting Republican."
I have a hard time seeing how anybody can vote Democrat right now with where the party stands and the policies that they're promoting, you know, because it really, you know, we used to, when I was growing up, you had two American parties. You had the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. They had different ideas, but both wanted what was best for the country. And now we don't see that. We see one party that's proud of our country, that really wants to improve the country, take the country forward, and then you have another party that just outright wants the destruction of our country.
Yeah,
it's
Marxism,
dangerous
communism.
times.
Right. Communism has never worked any place in the world. Socialism it never worked.
No.
It's a godless system that leads to poverty for everybody. That's all it does, poverty for everybody. And we saw it in Russia, we saw it in China, we saw it in Cuba, we saw it in Venezuela. And if we don't get these elections right, we will see it here.
We're on our way.
And I'm always amazed when they talk about election deniers, you know, in the paper. I mean, let's do some of this math, okay? Statistically, for instance, in Pennsylvania on election night, when Trump was up by 700,000 votes, 241,000 votes came in, no down ballot, all for Joe Biden, no down ballot. You know, statistically, you have a better chance of winning the lottery by 100 times than that happening. Not one ballot for Trump.
Right.
242,000.
I know. I was staying awake. I was watching. I watched it happen.
Well, don't you think that if we really wanted fair elections, we'd be taking those ballots, sending out some agents and going, hey, did you mail in this ballot? Did you mail in this ballot? And guess what we'd find out? Well, the addresses were at the cemeteries. Well, those people don't exist. They moved.
The key is, you said, if you wanted free and fair elections, and we know that there's a party that doesn't want free and fair elections.
Right.
But like with everything else, you know, the left cries racism when they're promoting racist policies.
Of course, exactly right.
They go off about how these election deniers are a threat to democracy. By the way, we're not a democracy; we're a constitutional republic.
Right.
But you know, what about Stacey Abrams? What about Hillary Clinton? What about Benny Thompson, who's the chair of the January 6th committee, when he in the past has refused to endorse George W. Bush's electors when they claim that these elections were not fair. So it's been going on since George W. Bush in 2000. Every single election a Republican has won, there have been Democrat deniers of the election victory. And yet now, all of a sudden, it's a threat to our continued existence.
Yeah, it is amazing. And they want illegal immigrants to vote. New York City is trying to get that for their local elections, which means it'll spill over from local elections till national elections.
I think they did, didn't they? In the court,
yeah,
said
they have,
it was not constitutional.
It's not constitutional. I mean, you're supposed to be a citizen of the country. I mean, what's the point
Go
of being
figure.
a citizen? You're going to vote for people you don't know, because what they do is they're letting them in. They're giving them the benefits. They realize that all those voters are going to vote for them, and that's why we have a border issue. Like never before. We let millions of people into the border. Why? Because the Democratic Party wants to prop up its power. Basically, that's what it is. Now, now, of course, Paul Pelosi, he got attacked the other day, which is a terrible thing that should never happen.
Absolutely.
And, you know, my heart goes out to him, and I hope he fully recovers. But the fact that they tried to paint the guy as a MAGA Republican, when in fact he was a very left-wing nut job.
Who's here illegally.
Who's here illegally, yes, in San Francisco, yes. I mean, so what's your take on that?
Well, I mean, it's more of the hypocrisy, more of the fear-mongering. You know, when you have nothing to run on, right? You have to go for the emotions.
Right.
And that's why they're pushing this abortion.
Yes.
You know, even though when you look at the two sides, the extreme on the issue is the far left, because they want abortion on demand at any time, including after birth.
Well, you know, and that takes me to Dan's race here in CD22. All Lois Franco can run on is abortion ads. That's all she's spending. And she's spending money. She's spending millions of dollars. She's spending a lot of money. And Dan came out with a great ad, which we're going to play during the commercial break. And it's as simple. Abortion settled law. What are we doing about the people that are starving? What are we doing about people that can't afford gas? Or worse yet, you got to choose between filling up your gas tank or eating.
Right.
Now, that hasn't happened since Jimmy Carter was president. And now it's happening again. Those are the real issues. And that's why, again, it's so important to get out people that want law and order, want inflation to be tamed down, want lower interest rates, want less crime, want to see a stock market that's going up instead of going down. Okay, the stock market over the last year has been destroying 401ks.
Gone.
Absolute total destruction. I mean, who wants to live poorer? Because that's what they're selling you. Live poorer, live with less. But why? We're saving Mother Earth.
But this is what they've been better at than we have.
Yes.
Because their messaging, they have painted anyone who's conservative as heartless,
Right.
as not caring for people, as wanting to throw grandma off the cliff, wanting, people on the street, having I have no problem with any person for any reason. I don't care what color they are. I don't care what religion they are. I don't care their sexual preference or anything. Everybody has a right to live in any way that makes them happy, as long as it doesn't infringe on someone else's rights, right? But that doesn't mean society changes.
Right.
And the Democrats have been much better at playing on people's emotions.
Very true.
And so we have an election now where there's a clear, clear
divide,
choice, right? A clear divide. And the question is, are people going to be baited into that emotion again? Or are they going to vote their pocketbook? Are they going to vote their children's futures? Are they going to vote on their rights? Because those things, their economic comfort, their economic survivability, I guess you can say, their children's futures, right? And their constitutional rights are all at stake in this election. So I guess it's, how important are things like abortion and this fake climate change crisis? Hey, let's do things to better our environment. Let's be good stewards of our environment. But there is no crisis. The Earth has had periodic
change. Right. You know what's so funny you say that, right? I looked it up, and the best scientists on this subject agree that it's planetary alignments that happen over a period of time. So we had the hottest summer in what year? 1377, I think it was. Well,
there were a lot of cars around then, right?
Exactly. Okay.
Factories, cars,
right. So
planes.
And then, of course, if you do read the Bible, which I'm a student of, it's very clear that there's going to be an asteroid or something that hits the Earth at some point in time before the coming of Christ and does some destruction. Why? Because people have turned their hearts. I mean, they've gotten so far from God. And I know this isn't a religious show, but right and wrong has been turned upside down. What was once right is now wrong, and what's wrong is right. I mean, it's just ludicrous.
Well, that's the problem with the left's attempt to take God out of our lives.
Right.
You don't have to be religious to care about right and wrong.
Right.
Right? And as we lose faith,
right,
we're losing that foundation in what is morally right, what is ethically right. And we're seeing a lot more of, they say the nice guys finish last. We're seeing a lot more of that as we're losing our faith and we're losing our moral compass. And it's a big problem, and we see that with the crime going on now.
Yeah, we do. I mean, George Washington said it best. He said it is the duty of all nations to do the will of God. The duty of all nations to do the will, to do His will, to serve Him, to obey Him. And when we do that, then when people don't steal and they don't murder, they don't do all these sinful things, society's better for everybody. You can leave your doors open at night. It doesn't matter. No one's going to steal from you. Because but in places like New York and San Francisco, especially California, they're saying you can steal, but only up to $1,000. And what's going to happen with those businesses? They're going to all go under. You're going to make San Francisco a ghost town. LA is going to be a ghost town. Nobody's going to want to go there. No businessman in his right mind is going to say, hey, let me relocate to San Francisco where people can steal up to $1,000 from me at a shot.
Well, that's been, the left has been notorious for always trying to pick winners and losers.
Yeah.
Right? Even when you look at COVID and you look at people unable to pay their rent. Right? How long was that rent moratorium extended beyond where it needed to be? When you had actual landlords, you had people who rely on that money to survive themselves, who were not getting paid.
Right, exactly.
And again, so it's picking the winners and the losers. And they do that all the time. They don't want school choice.
Right.
They don't want school choice, which would allow a low-income student to go to a better school, just like wealthy students can. But they don't want that. Why? Because they're choosing their winners to be the teachers' unions, the corrupt teachers' unions. By the way, if you saw, I think Breitbart had it, $57 billion. The two biggest teacher unions pushed onto left-wing priorities, when 57% of teachers are either Republican or independent.
Yeah, because
but they've supported Democrats.
Right, because who's running the teachers' union? They're all hardcore leftists.
Yep, and
that's
they pick
what
winners
it is.
and losers.
That's what they do. And that's the shame of it. And again, that's why we have to get out there. We have to vote, because if it's not, it's going to be tremendous. And thank God we have a good bunch of Republican candidates like yourself, like Steve Byers, like Dan Francis, like Daniel Zapata.
Absolutely.
We have a good group of people running, competent people that can go out there and do the job and make a difference, a positive difference for Florida and for the district they're running in. And I do think we're going to see you win, we're going to see Dan win, we're going to see Steve win, because I think people are tired. If you haven't seen enough of Joe Biden yet, what more has to happen? Rents went up 42% in Palm Beach County. Gasoline more than doubled, almost tripled, okay? Almost tripled in price. And so, I mean, it's just food costs. There's one particular restaurant I used to eat at all the time. Steak was $20. Joe Biden becomes president. 6 months later, it's now $30. A 50% jump in the price of a steak. Well, that makes everybody poorer.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what it does. And we got 2 minutes before we have to go to a commercial break. When we come back, we will have Steve Byers joining us, and he'll be back, and we'll be, we'll be back in a couple of minutes. So, but in the last minute, what would you like to say before we go commercial break?
Well, I just think you said it the best, that we got to get out there and vote. Our futures are on the line. Keeping Florida free, our children's futures, parents' rights. I mean, just look down the board, and it's one issue after another where the future of our state, our country, our families, the future of the American dream is on the line. So every patriotic American needs to get out there and needs to vote. Vote early. Don't wait till the last minute, but make sure you cast a ballot before November 8th.
Yeah, get that done. All right, we're going to be back. We're going to go to a commercial break right now, and we'll be back with Steve Byers, who's running for state senate. We can't wait to talk to Steve when we come back in a minute. Thank you.
I'm Dan Franzese, and I approve this message.
Lois Frankel's massive tax and reckless spending policies are killing us with inflation and higher costs. That's why Frankel lies and always changes the subject. Don't fall for her smokescreen. The truth? In Florida, the right to abortion is settled law. The truth? Lois Frankel and Nancy Pelosi are destroying our economy. Vote Dan Franzese for Congress. Dan's a successful businessman who will get our economy and our country back on track.
Text alert! Text alert!
I was receiving letter after letter from the IRS.
I got Mike Vilardi on the phone and I said, Mike, I got a problem.
He took the pressure off my shoulders.
He just made me feel like I had Superman on my side.
Trust me, he's the man to go to.
IRS problems? I'm Mike Vilardi, enrolled agent. I can help. My company, Winning Tax Solutions, has always gotten our clients the best possible results. Visit us at winningtaxsolutions.com or call us today.
If your family is suffering from inflation and high costs caused by Lois Frankel's reckless policies, Republican Dan Franzese is clearly your best choice for Congress. Dan is a successful businessman who understands finance and economics. He's not a politician. Dan grew up blue collar and knows how tough inflation is on working families. Dan Franzese will go to Washington and fight the liberals who are killing us with inflation. Dan Franzese for Congress.
I'm Dan Franzese, and I approve this message.
You've been watching the Political Power Hour with Mike Vilardi. For more information, email us at mikevilardi@gmail.com. That's Vilardi with one L. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back. Okay, so we're back on the Political Power Hour. We have our guest is Steve Byers is here with Keith and I. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. Glad to be here.
Hey, it's glad to have you. So tell us, you are running for state senate. We're hoping that you were going to take another Republican seat for us. What is going on with your campaign?
Well, we're keeping track of the voters as they go through the voting polls, and we're getting a lot of positive feedback. And I'm just feeling we just got to get more and more voters out there. It's amazing the Democrats seem to have this vote from the couch mentality, and isn't really exciting to the Republicans or people who or maybe have been discouraged by our voting system, and they're not getting motivated to get off the couch. So our goal is to motivate them to get off the couch, know that they can make a difference, and they got to get out to the polls. So that's what we're doing right now. And some of the poll volunteers, I just want to encourage them and thank them because they make a difference. They may not talk to the person or affect the person that's going in to vote, but when that person comes out and they get the thumbs up and just a little extra encouragement, and I'm often there to shake their hands and say thank you, I believe that motivates them in their social circles to encourage other people to go out and vote. Hey, I met Steve Byers. He's really cool. Or I've met his volunteers, and they're sincere about we got to pull themselves together to get out there and vote and make a difference. And so that's the kind of feedback. And then people are like, they look me in the eye and say, "Don't let us down."
Right, there we go.
Yeah.
Well, you know, so Keith, I'm gonna come back to you. Tell us about your opponent. Then I'm gonna ask Steve the same question. Tell us about your opponent that you're running against and why you are the better choice.
Well, my opponent is Joe Casello. He's been a state rep for 2 terms now. He ran in 2018. He was, I guess, a hand-picked successor to Lori Berman when she moved on to the state Senate.
Right.
He didn't have any opposition then. Then he ran in the COVID election in 2020. So I don't know how hard he's worked, but I can guarantee you we're working a lot harder than him. Basically, it's real simple. He voted against parents and against children at every step of the way. He voted against parental rights in education, meaning he's okay with kindergarten through third graders being indoctrinated into this gender theory alternate reality where they can identify as anything they want. He voted against keeping critical race theory out of our schools. So again, more of that indoctrination.
Right.
Now,
So
it's
critical
gender
race
indoctrination, it's racial indoctrination,
Right.
It's all of this woke madness. He voted against expanding school choice. So for someone who belongs to a party who talks about equality all the time, when it comes to the equality of educational opportunities, they vote against it time and again. I believe in universal school choice and education marketplace. Every single parent should have the right to make the best educational decision for their children. And salary, income, zip code, race, none of that should matter when it comes to equal opportunities in education. He also voted against banning sanctuary cities. So he is an open borders, Joe Biden open borders supporter. And we don't know what's coming across that border, how much drugs. You look at the fentanyl overdoses. I believe that's now the leading killer among 18 to 39-year-olds. And again, these are the kind of policies that he has voted for and against. He supported the unconstitutional mask and vaccine mandates and the lockdowns. He wanted us to stay closed longer. He was against Governor DeSantis in that as well. So, in my opinion, he has just been he's been wrong on every issue, and I believe he's wrong for Florida. And I think the more the people know, a lot of people don't know Joe Casello.
Right.
You know, and when they get to know Joe Casello and how he voted, they're just not happy with that kind of voting record. So, you know, it's time. You know, I say in my ads, Joe's got to go.
Right. Joe has to go. Well, Steve, how about you? How about your opponent?
Well, what was the question? Can you restate the question, please?
Sure. Tell us about your opponent and why you're the better choice.
Well, I don't know my opponent very well. People ask me her name, and I keep forgetting. I think the initials are LB or something like that. But, you know, you call him No-Show Joe, and I don't think people know who their current state senator is when I understand when there's no challenger, they don't even show up on the ballot. And I think in the past there's been several cases where our Democratic opponents haven't shown up on the ballot. Mm-hmm. So I think people are just tired of the angry stomping their feet for radical rights, rights to indoctrinate our children, rights to have the medical system vaccinate us, force us with masks, and people don't like that angry push that's against them right now. And so they're waking up and they're voting the other way, and that other way just happens to be Republican. And I encourage the Democrats out there that, as upsetting as it might be, this environment, we didn't create it. We want to be the solution to it. So go ahead, and you're welcome to vote for us, the Republicans. I had someone tell me just last night that they're really looking for someone that carries some of the old traditional Democratic values of caring for people, and they want a Republican that's going to have the traditional values that our country was founded upon. So, and let me add this: I like saying that I want America to prosper. And prosperity comes from good founding principles in a person's life. You throw confusion into any mix, it's not going to prosper. So why promote confusion in our schools, in the gender identity, in forcing people to take a vaccine and say, well, just do it, without any real choices of their own? So that confusion is going to block the prosperity that we need in this country. And we've got to clear up that confusion.
Mike, can I just say one thing?
Yeah, of course you can.
You know, Steve was talking about it. Somebody said to me, you know, the Democrat can be as blue as a Smurf going into the booth to pull that lever. Now it used to be pull the lever to press that button now. But they could be as blue as a Smurf going in there, but when they get in there, they got to be red, white, and blue, and they got to think about what's best for the country, what's best for their families.
Right.
And it's okay to vote for the person, not the party.
I think that's what has to happen. I think the problem is when you just vote party, you get the wrong people in office for the wrong reasons.
Absolutely.
Now, we're very fortunate here in Florida. You guys are running in state seats, that we do have a Republican legislator, and the Republicans do control all parts of the government.
You know, one of the things I think when it comes to voting for the person is you really want to vote for someone that has a high level of intelligence, an emotional IQ, an intelligent IQ. And I'm really impressed with Keith Veit and his PhD,
right,
and his prolific writing abilities and the books he has. I read some of his books early on, even before he made a decision to run, and I'm like, man, this is a guy that understands it. He gets it. We can get behind him. And you know, I've been blessed with a certain level of intelligence. I guess I did really well in school. I was like a straight A student in high school. I remember getting competitive with some friends and other people about our IQs and IQ tests, and I beat them all. I think I was in the 160s, and my friend came in like 4 points behind me, and we always made a big thing about that. Well, I see political candidates out there that don't exhibit a very smart IQ. I mean, they're using a horrible language, name calling, just stomping their feet and getting mad, and that's a low emotional IQ and a low IQ when it comes to public speaking, and we need to vote that out. And it's by the person. If we have someone that ridiculous in the Republican Party, maybe they should go. If we have something more intelligent to choose from.
Sounds like you just spoke about Lois Frankel, what just happened with Dan Francis, where she got all stomped her feet and walked out of the room and left the.
Did that happen?
Yes.
Well, it's also intelligence. But
Yes.
One thing that Steve's not mentioning that I have such respect for him for is integrity.
Yes, integrity is very important.
And that's something that's missing. I think even more than intelligence.
Yep.
Integrity, because there's
character.
so few representatives, so few elected officials and candidates who actually have integrity and are running for the right reasons. And I think that's
Well,
also
it
important.
used to be that they would attack our integrity, and no one's perfect, right?
No.
So our integrity could be attacked, and we'd have to cover it up. But I think they've left that behind with or that was a file they deleted off the Biden laptop or something like that. But so it's like, I thought there was going to be a vetting. Where is your integrity and what's your background? And there really wasn't. It's just like, get out there and fight for freedom, and let's make this happen. So the integrity I have to fall back on is just that I'm a forgiven child of God, and I go back to those principles. And when it comes to winning and what do I do next, I'm going to go to the principle in the Bible where you just ask God for wisdom to lead these people and to guide these people in the government, because that's what one of the kings in the Bible did. Was it Solomon? And he became God said, "I'll give you anything you want."
Right.
And he didn't ask for wealth. He didn't ask for riches. He asked for wisdom to lead the people. So why don't we, as politicians or as people getting into the government right now, ask for the wisdom so that we can lead these people to freedom and to the relationship that begins the prosperity in their life.
Mike, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I know, I believe this might have been a problem back in your race, but I have been trying to get Joe Casello to debate me one-on-one. If he has such a great voting record and he's been such a great representative of the people, get out there and show it off. Right? I'm a newcomer. I don't have a record. I speak. I have these issues. Joe, debate me. Let the people make the choice.
Right. Well, he won't do that because if he debates you, he's going to lose. And if he loses, he could lose the election.
Well, he's going to lose
he knows
anyway.
that. Well, that's true. But I had that same situation because the person was unable to debate successfully, had nothing to run on. Okay, they just simply were running on the fact that they had a little fame, internet fame, and raised some money from it. Okay, but they could not debate. They couldn't run on anything they've done, and they had no character or integrity, which would have come to light during those debates also. Right. And that's why it's so hard to get opponents like your Democratic opponent to debate you. I mean, and I mentioned before, Dan had it wasn't a debate, it was like, a situation where they were asking questions to him and her, and he said something, she went off, stomped her feet, walked out the door, threw a tantrum.
Kind of like she did with Debadini, the sign in the restaurant.
Yeah, right, exactly. Because, again, she can't stand on what she's done. Right. And that's why all her ads are abortion, fear-mongering. Mm-hmm. You can't vote for him. He's like the devil. Oh, my God, if you put him in office, oh, my God, you'll never be able to get an abortion ever. Right? And Dan comes out with an ad. Guess what? It's settled law. It has nothing to do. It has to do with Florida, nothing to do with Congress anymore. The Supreme Court decision's been overturned. It's over. I want to get in there. I want to fight for you, the people, and that's why they will not show up to a debate. They will not confront you. They're going to run on the fact that they're in a Democratic district, and people are just going to show up and go D right down the line.
That's a shame.
It is.
They're going to go D and then skip over my opponent and go R for me. I declare that.
Well, that's
I hope so, Steve.
That's exactly what we need to happen. That's exactly what we need to happen.
I mean, I'm encouraged that
Yeah.
can happen, and then people are going to vote for the person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if it doesn't happen this time around, when the stage is set, when it should be more obvious than ever before in the history, I would say the history of the country, but since Jimmy Carter, okay? And even then, Jimmy Carter got a lot of votes. Even as incompetent as he was, he still lost almost every state, but people were still voting for him. At least 40% of the people were supporting him.
So I think that a lot of the people, if they vote on one simple thing, and is what happens, if they have a short memory, hopefully the memory's not so short, that their kids were masked
Yes.
to go to school. And that's upsetting.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a post today that the kids were encouraged to wear Halloween costumes to school, but they couldn't wear anything covering their face because it would impede their learning.
That's funny.
Right.
Yeah. So let's not impede the learning. And you know what? Democratic parents realize that that was a stupid move for their children, and it may have impeded their children. And they get to vote now, and they get to vote the other way and vote for a change. So it's time.
I don't know. Did you guys see the news that one Republican congressman suddenly died of heart anemia? Did you? I don't know.
I have not. No, I have not seen
I've
that.
I've been seeing lately. There's been a lot of sudden deaths out of no place.
I saw there was a comedian up in Canada that got a couple of the jabs, and he refused to take the third jab. But when he was in the hospital suffering from the side effects of the first two jabs, he ended up passing away. So it's out there. People are hearing about it, experiencing it personally, and they're realizing there's a fallacy that they've been fed, and it's time to change it.
In England, the insurance companies are not standing behind the life insurance policies if somebody was vaccinated. You know why? Because they said it's an experimental drug. You use it at your own risk, and if it has anything to do with the cause of death, we're not going to back it because this is like assisted suicide. You let it happen.
Wow.
Crazy. Crazy stuff. Well,
Isn't that an oxymoron there? The insurance company won't pay for the death, but they won't cover their medical bills if they aren't
right,
vaccinated.
exactly. Well, in the next few minutes, we're going to be going to another commercial break and then when we come back, we're going to continue with the show. But right now, we're going to cut to a commercial, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes. Thank you very much. Let's go to that commercial.
I'm Dan Franzese, and I approve this message.
Lois Frankel's massive tax and reckless spending policies are killing us with inflation and higher costs. That's why Frankel lies and always changes the subject. Don't fall for her smokescreen. The truth? In Florida, the right to abortion is settled law. The truth? Lois Frankel and Nancy Pelosi are destroying our economy. Vote Dan Franzese for Congress. Dan's a successful businessman who will get our economy and our country back on track.
Tax alert! Tax alert! I was receiving letter after letter from the IRS.
I got Mike Vilardi on the phone, and I said, Mike, I got a problem.
He took the pressure off my shoulders.
He just made me feel like I had Superman on my side.
Trust me, he's the man to go to.
IRS problems? I'm Mike Vilardi, enrolled agent. I can help. My company, Winning Tax Solutions, has always gotten our clients the best possible results. Visit us at winningtaxsolutions.com or call us today.
If your family is suffering from inflation and high costs caused by Lois Frankel's reckless policies, Republican Dan Franzese is clearly your best choice for Congress. Dan is a successful businessman who understands finance and economics. He's not a politician. Dan grew up blue collar and knows how tough inflation is on working families. Dan Franzese will go to Washington and fight the liberals who are killing us with inflation. Dan Franzese for Congress.
I'm Dan Franzese, and I approve this message.
You've been watching the Political Power Hour with Mike Vilardi. For more information, email us at mikevilardi@gmail.com. That's Vilardi with one L. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the show. I'm back, and I have Keith and Steve, and we're just going to talk about NPAs for a minute and getting those votes out and turning those NPAs into Republican voters. Steve, we'll start with you.
Yeah, it's. I think the NPAs are a bunch of people who I respect them. They didn't find anything particularly attractive about either party, or maybe they've left the party, but they don't want to jump in with the other one. But they have to get out and make a difference and vote. And I believe, I suggest you vote Republican. You vote for these non-establishment candidates that we have. We have such a big ticket of non-established candidates, of high IQ candidates coming out of the woodwork to make a difference for the NPAs. And they are literally more than a third of our county. And so they make a difference. They make the swing. We got to get them out there. And so I don't know, what can we do? Maybe have some sort of incentive, mail them a gift card? No, I don't think we're allowed to do that.
No, we could certainly phone them, though. We could certainly get lists and make phone calls. And at this late hour, I think the only thing we can do is either knock on their door or call them.
Yeah, well, and really this word goes out to those who are NPAs and know other NPAs, or just bring it up to their friends. It's not always easy. People don't want to talk politics, but if we don't talk politics, we lose our country. And
right.
You might not have wanted to talk about the Nazis being put into using concentration camps, but if we didn't do something about it, the world would have been a different place to live. Freedom would have gone under. We have to step up so freedom doesn't go under in our country today. So I implore people to get out of their comfort zones, ask other people, hey, do you vote? Have you voted? It doesn't matter what party you are. I think it's really important that you go out and vote. And I know of a couple good guys that are going to make a difference. If you never motivated you before, now's the time to be motivated. And they can call me. I'm available. I'll meet with people. Somebody, and it's just amazing, somebody wants a T-shirt, I'll drive it out to their house for them. So whatever it is, one little touch like that will be a seed that multiplies. Whether I plant it, or there's a volunteer plants it, or someone who's just listening here plants a seed, it'll make a difference. We got to get people out.
Well, I don't know about you, Keith, but I'm going to have Steve driving over with T-shirts.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't gotten one yet, so I hope he's got big sizes.
I saw that my opponent now has a T-shirt. How do I know? Because I saw two people wearing them, her and her campaign manager.
There you go.
Probably from the last election cycle. But Steve is 100% right, and I know our campaign, we've been focusing on the NPA since the summer.
Okay.
And we've been to thousands of NPA households, spoken to thousands of NPA voters, and just like everybody else, they're frustrated. And you have a lot of them that they kind of don't know. They don't trust the Democrats. They think the Democrats are screwing up the country, but at the same time, they're not sure about the Republican Party because of what they see and what they hear about the Republican Party. And that's one of the things I've been stressing is vote for the person, not the party. Because Steve mentioned there's so many good first-time candidates we have. A majority of our candidates are not politicians. They're just concerned citizens who don't like the direction where we're going, and they want to make a difference. And they're going out there sacrificing their own time to kind of give the NPAs a voice, the people that are not on the far right and the far left, because those people always have a voice. They get the voice of the fringe. And it's the people that are not a part of those fringe groups that often get left behind these days because they don't make a lot of noise. So the way you can make noise if you're an NPA is to get out and vote. Now, right now the NPAs have much lower voter turnout than both Republicans and the Democrats, which is obviously not a good thing, but it is a good thing in the fact that there's a lot of NPA voters still available out there. So if you are an NPA and you're watching, just vote for your rights, vote for your children, vote for your future. Don't vote for a party. Vote for yourself. Vote for your family. Vote for what's going to help you the most, the policies that are going to help you the most. And I think you'll find out those are conservative empowerment policies rather than the liberal dependency policies.
Well, when I ran, what I found, what allowed me to turn voters towards me, Democratic voters in particular, was I took certain issues. Mine was Social Security, the double taxation of it when they take taxes from you, and then the fact that it used to be tax-free and now it's not, and it should be. And nobody could disagree with me on those issues. And so whether I was talking to a liberal Democrat or a very conservative person, it didn't matter. They had to agree with me. And when you get agreement, that's when people are going to vote for you. Say, I like that guy, I agree with him, I think he's right.
But see, that's one of the problems, is that the Republican Party has been so demonized on Social Security.
Yes, they have.
We hear over and over. We see it tweeted. We see it on Instagram. We see it on Facebook. We see it on the news all the time, where Republicans want to get rid of Social Security and Medicare. They want to privatize. They want to do this. They want to do that. It doesn't have to be true, but voters are hearing it and voters are listening to it, and that is always in the back of their minds. And that's where we have to do a better job of messaging, letting them know that we're better for their future.
And that's why I would always go back to what happened on August 14th, 1935. FDR signed the Social Security Act. The three provisions in it were separate trust fund. Johnson changed that. So the Democrats changed the law. Mm-hmm. Secondly, that any tax they take from you, if they take $8,000 and you make $100, you only get taxed on the $92,000 you saw, not the $100 you made. Now you're getting taxed on the $100 you made. Double taxation, totally wrong. And thirdly, the benefit was supposed to be tax-free. Now they tax up to 85% of the benefit. So I took that back by laying out the facts of what happened, and it was the Democrats that changed all those three provisions.
I followed you there, Mike. I mean, and it was kind of natural for me that I've had long, hard-fought battles with my homeowners association. I know a lot of other people had. And so the homeowners association affects Republicans, independents, non-party affiliates, Democrats alike.
Right.
And I want to go up there and affect change for these people, so that the small person has a voice and they aren't just squashed in the homeowners association concerns that they have. And so that is, if people can understand, that's one thing to vote Steve Byers and vote the person, not the party.
How do they get in touch with you, Steve, and how can they help you?
VoteSteveByers.com is my website, VoteSteveByers.com. You can go there, you'll find my cell phone number, you'll find my email, and you'll find that I'm available Saturday mornings from 9 to noon at my honey farm. And I love having people just show up at the house and we get together. It was 15, 20 people last weekend. Let's make it bigger this weekend.
Oh, that'll be great. Okay, Keith, we got a minute left. How do they get in touch with you?
Well, it's fight2022.org, FEIT2022.org. Yeah, I mean, all our information is out there, and we love talking to voters. So if you want to, get together, have a chat about what's going on today, just reach out. We'll come to you. We want to talk to as many voters as possible before this election's over.
Well, we need to keep Florida red. We need Keith Fight. We need Steve Byers. We need Dan Franzese for Congress. We need to get these people into office, because if not, we will lose our freedoms. And we're already losing our financial buying power with the record inflation that we've seen put in place. So I just want to please encourage you to get out and vote. Vote early, as soon as you can, and vote Republican, because we need to keep Florida free. That's
Absolutely.
What we need to do. And I want to thank you for watching another episode of the Political Power Hour. Next week, we're going to be on Monday night, the night before election. We're going to have a couple of special guests. We should have Dan Franzese back on, and maybe Keith and Steve will join us too. And we'll have a great final show before election night. Thank you for watching the Political Power Hour. I'm your host, Mike Vilardi. Till next week.
Thank you for watching the Political Power Hour with your host, Michael Vilardi. If you would like to see a particular candidate on our show, please email us at michaelvilardi@gmail.com. That's one L in Vilardi. We will see you next week.